Hello, my name is John Cassidy Rice. I have the pleasure to be your host for this week's podcast. And in our quest to explore how NLP is being used in everyday life and in the work situation, I have Andrew Jenkins. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, how you doing, John?
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, I'm excited to be here, so thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Great. So we've known each other for quite a while now. So that
Yeah, we have. Yeah, gosh, it must be 16 years, I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah,
And you've been running a
yeah.
consultancy and you're now an NLP trainer. So all those wonderful things.
Yeah, I do all of those things. Yeah, I do. Yeah, so I run my own diplomas. I like you, I can do master practitioner training and practitioner. I mainly do diplomas because they're the things that fit into business.
Yes.
Because businesses just don't want to invest in 14 days worth of 16 days worth. So I do shorter bridge courses with businesses quite often. That works really well, actually.
Excellent. And I'm sure some people listening to this would be interested to find out, how does NLP kind of fit into the business context?
Yeah, and it's not an easy sell, actually. I have to say, there's NLP sort of sometimes has a bit of a kind of hippie reputation, and some businesses
tree hugging.
Yeah, absolutely. California and hippies and all that kind of stuff. And so it needs a little bit of persuasion, I think, and some influencing around what it does for teams. And I found that to be quite useful, actually. But it does need to be sold in the right way, I think, to make it work in business.
And I think that's just true of anything, really, isn't it? Especially when you're dealing with some people skills.
Well, I find that's where it works really well. That there's a gap, I think, in today's market around soft skills and emotional intelligence, and NLP can kind of fit that relationship piece very well, actually. In terms of building rapport, in terms of getting on with your colleagues, and building relationships with clients and customers, etc. So I do find that kind of works pretty well, when you work on that sort of basis rather than a series of techniques.
Right.
It helps them build rapport and get.
Because you mentioned sort of dealing with sort of difficult people, etc. Have you got any sort of examples of NLP in actions that you can share with us?
Well, I use it in lots of different contexts, actually. So, I find from a business perspective, I like the NLP model of changing language, changing mindset. That is, to me, is a very powerful approach, as well as relationship building around rapport, sensory acuity. Those kind of aspects of NLP are really practical and work extremely well, I find, with business teams.
Okay.
So that works for me.
Excellent. So you mentioned sort of going in and sort of being able to sell the NLP into this, and this might be sort of proprietary to you. But what would be your approach to doing that, to being able to go in and sort of help an organization see the benefits of NLP?
Yeah, and it really, good NLP, in my opinion, shouldn't be NLP. So we all talk about NLP.
Yes.
It's
a
just
thing.
It's a thing,
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a thing at all. It can just be. This is an approach to developing good relationships, building your own self-awareness, building your awareness with other people, and working together to help each other to build good relationships. So it's about working as a team. And working as as a group of people to get better at not only just working with your interrelationships, but what we notice about our clients. How do we get the best out of our interactions? How we use language, how we use our positivity and our states of mind to get better results, basically. And that's how I find it works really, really well.
Excellent. So I'll see if I can get you to take a step-by-step through that process. So let's say you're going to see a client. How do you prepare yourself? Because you talked about mindset. So how would you prepare yourself before you go into, say, an important meeting or a pitch or meeting somebody for the first time?
Is this me to a client? Is it?
Yes. So let's say you to a client. Yes.
Okay, I'm with you. Well, I remember when I first did this, I remember one of the things that helped me tremendously to get in the right state of mind to sort of work through this, because it's quite nerve-wracking, isn't it, when you're meeting a client for the first time, you've never done this before.
Yeah.
I have to say, I remember working with a hospital team at one point. I was trying to win the contract, and it was really quite nerve-wracking. It's the first time I'd ever done this. And I remember standing in the car park in one summer's day. It's a beautiful hot day, actually, and there's no one around. And I just threw a circle of excellence on the floor to help me to kind of get into the right state of mind, to help me to kind of, okay, I need to be in the right place here to help me to really work well with this client. And actually, that worked incredibly well for me. And I remember sort of going through the steps of that circle of excellence just to put me in the right place to enable, to enable me to talk, with the right intent, if you like.
Yeah, that's a great technique. So then you're walking into meeting the client, say, for the first time, and maybe we'll use this NHS one if that's okay with you. Sure, how did they kind of demonstrate that connection? How did you build that rapport quickly?
Yeah, how did I do that? That's an interesting question. How do we build rapport? I suppose I'm just a natural at building rapport, and I don't really know how I do it. I just do it well. and I guess for me, it's about finding out where people are at, what they want, building into, falling into a conversation, finding what's common with us, finding some common ground, and being relaxed enough with people just to kind of allow the conversation to develop, and not to be too rushed to form into a sales pitch, if you like, but just talk to people normally, and to be relaxed enough to allow them to do that with you until everyone feels ready enough to have a conversation around work.
So do you have any techniques that maybe, because the temptation is go in and ask lots of questions, and then maybe the person feels bombarded with questions. How do you get that balance right?
For me, I think one of the key things that I found useful from NLP is it's not about your model of the world. It's about other people's model of the world. And so one of my key presuppositions is be curious. Be curious about the other people in the room, and not to worry too much about what it is that you have to say. Be more interested in what the group are saying and what's happening in the space right now, and being able to tease that kind of stuff out, which is a coaching skill as well. And blending coaching and NLP together, as you know, John, it works really, really well. Asking the right questions, being curious, opening up conversations, having open questions, but equally watching the responses from people in the room and picking up on threads, and just enjoying the conversation really, and not actually having any sales pitch at all. And that'll come when it comes, in my opinion.
Yes.
Because when people are relaxed and they're okay, so we might have had 10 or 20 minutes worth of, or maybe 15 minutes worth of just general conversation, and it's okay, so Andrew, tell us what tell us how we can use your services. But by that time, most people are relaxed and they kind of got a feel of who you are and how you work, and so the conversation comes much more naturally to me. And another thing I tend to work on is, rather than talk about me, is kind of, okay, so what are the problems that you're trying to address?
Yes.
What is it you need, rather than what is it that I do and I give you? What is it that you need? And use my sensory acuity skills and my listening skills to pick those kind of things up, and to work through some potential solutions a little bit later. But to spend time on the problem, I find much more interesting. Again, you're engaging in them and not you.
Yes.
And that way you're making that connection. And that I don't necessarily think that's totally NLP, but it helps to get you into that right state of mind, if you like. The rest of it is just listening skills and being interested and being curious and wanting to have that kind of conversation with people.
Yes. And I think that's a really important point that you're kind of alluding to there, is that when you're meeting with another human being, you're not doing NLP at them. You're not thinking technique based.
And people suss that out really quickly. You're doing NLP on me now.
Yes.
If I've kind of got that kind of response, like I must have failed somewhere down the line.
Do you find people prejudge you because you've done some NLP? Has there been any times when the NLPs maybe worked against you because of what people thought?
Lots of times, actually, people have preconceived ideas about NLP, and I think it's important. I find it's important to reframe that kind of conversation. Kind of go, no, okay, let's just take a step back here. What are you trying to produce here, rather than worry about what does NLP do, and is it manipulative, and is it all about squeezing people into a sales situation, and you're maneuvering that whole piece. Yeah, you can use NLP for that, but you'll only do it once. And it'll be done, people will suss you out. If you're not and you're not authentic, people get that straight away. And I think that's sometimes the problem a little bit with NLP, that, we use a series of techniques rather than, it's not a series, you can look at it as a series of techniques, but I find that if NLP is done in that way, it's wrong.
Yes.
it's about using it. It's about using the understanding of it being natural and authentic, and to open up conversations, and access people's states of mind rather than their content, if you like. Quite often for me, it's about, well, what do you not just what do you want and what content do you want. It's, well, if you got that, what would it make you feel like? What will you get from that? And so you're accessing people's states of mind more than just language and content of things that they want. It's more a conversation about, okay, so if you had that, what kind of success criteria would you get? How would that change your organisation? How would people think and feel at work in your organisation if we did, if we help them to build around some of the problems that you have? And it happens that I've got some techniques that will help you that are, are from the NLP world. They originate from here. However, these are natural ways of communicating. And I prefer you not to have the labels, but rather the kind of success criteria of what that could give you as a group of people, rather than seeing it as this is NLP we're doing. Yes, it's underpinned by a technology called NLP, but really it's about human success. It's not. And so you're moving away from the technique, and if you like, understanding what the techniques are to help people be more natural with other people, and that's probably how I work.
It's really nice to hear that you're approaching the NLP using it in a very humanistic way, especially within a business context.
Yeah, and to help people to kind of reframe their thoughts about NLP. Well, I've tried NLP, very manipulative. We didn't like it. Our salespeople loved it because they thought they could get more sales techniques. And my point is, look, this isn't about selling or getting more. It's about relating better. So actually, you can find a match with your client to enable you to then build that rapport that enables you to make a natural, authentic sale, that they want something, you've got it. And how you do that authentically and genuinely is, to me, more to the point.
Excellent.
Don't manipulate people.
So how has NLP, have you used NLPs personally? What's been a little bit of your journey with it, and what have been some of the key insights that you've had from NLP?
Quite often people ask me, can I work with this stuff on my kids?
Yes.
And I have to say that NLP works really, really well with children because they haven't got preconceptions that we have.
No. Well, I've got 5 of my own, so I've got my own little experiment going on,
Yeah. I remember sort of doing anchoring for the first time and teaching my daughter Hannah this, who was probably about 6 at the time.
Okay.
And absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
On all her knuckles, and I think it was a ploy to extend bedtime.
Children are smart.
She was very smart. Yeah, took me a while to get that actually, and then every night we'd have, well, I've forgotten which knuckle has got which state of mind on, so can we do it all over again? However, it really helped her, and I remember there was a point to where Hannah was finding some situations at school with slightly bullying nature. What was happening to her in the playground.
Yes.
And using NLP as a mechanism of unpacking what was going on for her, and rather than talk about the situation, is how it made her feel. So, for example, she said at bedtime one day, which is probably another ploy to kind of delay bedtime as much as possible. Well, there's another girl at school, and she's giving me a bit of a hard time, and I feel very upset about it. Okay, so if you were to describe that in terms of how that makes you feel, what how would that be for you? She said, well, Dad, it's a bit like being in a big dark hole. So immediately you now got a metaphor, and she's just describing that. So rather than talk about the situation, the girl, the interaction, all the content that's involved, or she said this, I did that. She talks about how it made her feel, and so she starts to describe this big black hole that she's in. It's a deep dark hole. And I kind of said, okay, so if you could pretend that you find yourself in that now, just so I can understand you a little bit more, would you be willing to do that? And she said, yeah, I can jump in that hole now. So she jumps into it. I said, well, can I join you? And she said, yeah, come on down. So, again, we're talking in metaphor terms, which is helping her to describe her situation without any content whatsoever, but just understanding this in metaphor terms is so powerful. And it was a deep, dark hole. And I said, okay, so now you're down here. How does it feel? Well, it feels really cold, and it feels like I've got something heavy on my back. And I said, okay, so, what would that be like? And she said, probably like carrying a heavy rucksack. Okay. So what colour is the rucksack? And she said, well, I don't know, it's on my back. So I said, well, okay, how about you take it off? And she said, okay. So she pretends to take it off. And I said, well, okay, do you want to put it in the corner? And she said, well, it's a round hole. There's no corner. So well, put it in the corner of the round hole, which she found really amusing. So she puts it in the corner of a round hole, however you do that. And then I said to her, okay, so now we've got a bit of distance to it. It's over there, that heavy rucksack. What colour is it? She said, oh, it's black. Okay. So what do you want to do with it? And she said, well, can I kick it? Yeah, go ahead and kick it. So she ends up kicking it. Literally, she gets out of bed and starts kicking this pretend rucksack in her room. And okay, so that make you feel better? She goes, yeah, brilliant. So I said, okay, we're done? She said, no, we're not done at all. Still in the deep, dark hole. Okay, so what do we need to get out of that? And, when you watch kids doing imaginative stuff, and when they're using their imagination, which is exactly what we're doing here. This is just a hypnotic technique.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she kind of goes, and kids go like this, go, well, they kind of go right up with their eyes, don't they? And they kind of look into the ceiling. And she says, well, I need a pair of magic shoes. Oh, cool, pair of magic shoes. Brilliant. Okay,
I like it.
Magic shoes? Yeah. Well, they spring me out of the hole. I thought, wow, fantastic. Okay, so what colour are the magic shoes? Guess what colour the magic shoes are? She's a girl. What colour are they going to be?
Pink.
Yeah. Right. He's pink, so puts on his pink shoes, bounces out the hole. So, wow, are we done? And she kind of says, well, no, I'm now back in the playground. So it turns out the hole was her coping mechanism.
Yes.
And now she's in the playground. She can see the other person. And she's, well, she's over there. Okay, so what do we need now? What would help you now to face it? And she kind of goes, And again, it's kind of like, kids go like this, really over exaggerated. She goes, well, Mummy's got this kind of thing in the oven that's like, that fat drops on. It's like a Teflon coating. Oh, a Teflon sheet. She goes, yeah, I want a cloak made of Teflon. Cool. Okay. So you wrap this cloak around you. What does that do? It kind of makes me impervious to, well, I don't know if she used that word, but she, whatever she does to me, she can't touch me with this cloak on. Okay. So you want one of these? Yeah. A magic one. She said, yeah. So what color is the magic cloak? Guess what color the magic cloak was?
Pink or purple?
Pink.
Yeah.
There we are. Pink it was.
Yeah.
And so, she was able to go to school now with a pair of magic shoes in her, in her rucksack, the virtual shoes, and a virtual, Teflon pink cloak. So she was able to kind of protect herself quite readily from this girl. And, I used to ask her every day when she came home how things, magic cloak's working really well. I can jump in the magic hole if I need to, or jump out of it when I want to, so she had some control over it, John,
Yes.
And it didn't take many weeks before I kind of said to her, well, okay, what's happening? She said, I'll leave my magic cloak and my magic shoes at home now. I don't need them.
Excellent.
And just by reframing that situation and having a way of coping that enables her to face that person, but face it in a different way.
Yes.
Enabled that interaction to stop happening in the same pattern. It broke the pattern of this girl picking on her, and she picked on somebody else, or I don't know what happened. But the point is, she wasn't picking on Hannah.
That's right.
Amazing what you can do with, and that whole thing about shifting people's mindset. Both children and adults, I find, works really, really well. So if people are frightened of flying, or they're facing a difficult situation, is to try and help that adult or that child to see things from a different point of view, and to give them the resources. When you're kids, you're 5 kids. Do they ever have the night scares?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a funny one, isn't it? The night scares. How do you help people with night scares? And I remember my little daughter, my youngest one, and when she was about 5 or 6, she started having the night scares. Might have been younger, actually.
Right.
And I just thought, there's something I need here. And there was a big sunflower on her bed. Big felt, it's a horrible thing, big felt thing. It's as big as her, actually.
Right.
I said, you do know that monsters are scared of sunflowers, don't you? And she goes, I never knew that. I said, this was late at night when she'd had a scare and calmed her down. And I kind of used that technique and wiring synesthesia to calm her down. Once I got her calm, we started talking about what monsters don't like, and they don't like sunflowers. Oh, I've got a sunflower, Daddy. Look, it's on my bed.
Excellent.
So all you need to do, Lottie, is shake the sunflower at the monster. The monster will go away. She goes, oh, wow, really? Yeah. So again, it's a resource for her. It wasn't many days before she kind of said, I've been shaking the stick at the monster every day, Daddy goes away, just like you said. Yeah. And eventually they just don't need the stick anymore because the monster's given up, and she's got control over it.
It's a good example of respecting somebody's map of the world. Because it'd be so easy as an adult to go, no, don't be silly.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so and that whole contrasting pictures I find to be very, very useful. You know,
Yes.
with my daughter was allow her to get into that deep dark hole, and to talk, and for my younger daughter to talk about the monster, because actually that's part of the process of when you talk about it and you teach me how that monster comes into your room, so I can be like, teach me how you do it. You know, and so she's teaching me how to be scared of the monster and what does it look like, and da, da, da. And whilst that might be reinforcing it, actually, no, she's teaching me to do it, which is actually helping her to kind of get that step beyond it. To kind of say,
she's taking control of it. She has a say in the matter.
Correct. You know, and that is very. It's a child's version, if you like, of swish, which I find one of the most powerful techniques in NLP. I think that's a piece of genius that Bandler invented, that process.
Yes.
He used it for nail biting and compulsions, but actually, I've used it for all sorts of different techniques, you know, where you can talk about an issue with an adult or, you know, whoever. And you can develop the kind of visualization of what's going on there. And then from there, I kind of flesh out, okay, so you know, what's the underlying belief that's triggering for you? What's the trigger? What's going on for you when this thing happens? So, you know, you're going not just to the situation and when it happens, but actually, what is that deep down, what's that triggering for you? You know, what fear is it triggering? What insecurity is it triggering?
Yes.
And when you can get, you can then kind of say, okay, so what, you know, if you had a better belief of that, if you were to reprogram that belief, what would it be? So, well, okay, it could be, you know, rather than being frightened, on facing it. Okay, so, you know, what would be an example of you facing something? So now you're moving from the problem to the desire. And you've done it very naturally because, you know, you've used the issue, you've teased out the issue, you've talked about the issue quite a bit, and then you then lead on to the opposite of that issue. Or if you didn't have that, what would your mindset be if you didn't have this issue? And
I think that's really important because so many people, because it's pace leading from a rapport point of view.
Yeah.
So a lot of people want to kind of jump into leading straight away for the solution rather than taking the time to pace somebody's map of the world.
Yeah, and I think once you're at that point, I remember Bandler saying, you know, very much that it's all about pace, lead, you know, match, pace, match, pace, lead a bit. Actually, what I find in NLP, once you've built rapport, you can lead, and you do need to lead sometimes quite significantly. That's not, you know, you're giving people instruction to kind of say, okay, build me the picture. You know, tell me what's going on. You know, and it's quite direct, but it helps. But actually, then when they start to develop it, you're matching and you're pacing them for a little while. Okay, now I understand that.
Yes.
But I think quite often people are a little worried about leading. You know, they're a bit scared of it. And sometimes in NLP, you have to be quite direct to kind of say, look, okay, so paint that picture for me now.
Yes.
You know, now we can tease out, you know, what's there, and we can pace for a little while. But I find it's kind of lead, pace, lead, pace, lead. And it's a lot more leading, I find, that works well for me.
Yes.
That's not necessarily you're painting the picture for them, but you're asking them questions to paint their own picture. So give me the reality, teach me to be how you're doing this now. It's still a leading question. It's still leading them to get to that point. You ask them the question. It's a bit like in hypnosis, you know, you ask people, you know, to imagine something. Now imagine this, now imagine that. And they're building all the pictures, but you're giving very, very rudimentary instructions to help them to do that.
Is that guidance?
Yeah. But they're painting the picture. It's all their stuff. It's their map of the world. It's not your map of the world. Not leading with your stuff, but you are leading in terms of give me your stuff, not my stuff. Give me more of what you're saying. Give me more of your imagination. Give me more of how that helps you, or rather how that affects you. So, you know, asking lots of questions to pull out what's going on is actually really important. But it's not about you, it's about them.
Absolutely. So we covered a huge amount in this short period of time. So we started off looking at how to prepare ourselves for kind of a business meeting using the circle of excellence, and how not to think of techniques when you're walking in to meet somebody from a business point of view where it's a client. So how you've used the NLP with your children, and that pace, lead, and how. Thank you ever so much for sharing all that. That's fabulous.
You're very welcome. And I think, you know, that whole thing about, you know, the other people's model of the world is the key to these things. It's not about you and about what you want. It's about being in whatever level you're working and interacting with others.
Respect.
Yeah, and about being curious about what's going on in your world. Tell me more about that. I'm really interested. People are talking about themselves, and I think that's, to me, that's one of the keys to accessing and having permission to work with people.
Yeah. So if somebody wanted to contact you, Andrew, to maybe sort of find out what you do from a commercial point of view, or sort of maybe personally got some questions, if that's okay, how would they go about doing that?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn, so please contact me on LinkedIn. You'll find me at Andrew Jenkins. My company's PDX Consulting. I have a website, www.pdx-consulting.com, and you can contact me through there. And my email is andrew@pdx-consulting.com.
You got that.
Yeah,
we'll put that on the website, on my webpage just below there, so that people contact you.
Lovely. Yeah, great.
Thank you for your generosity.
Thank you.
Okay. Until next week, have a fabulous week. And if you've got any questions, for Andrew, he's a wonderful guy, very generous with his information. So please do contact him. If you've got any questions for myself, please do contact myself. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Bye.
Cheers.